All right, today is the day we complete this project. And what project am I talking about? Oh yeah, you guessed it. The Ozark Trail Dual Slalom. Now I didn't really want to take it this far, but the bike rode so good at Trestle Bike Park where I was like, I gotta finish this. I gotta see what you can actually do to this bike. So today, we're gonna take it to that last final step that I think will complete this Ozark Trail Slalom build for myself at least. All right, I know, y'all tired of hearing about this bike, but just the way it rode at Trestle Bike Park, I really gotta see what this bike can do once I put an air shock on it. And there's a couple things that I wanna say about this bike as well, because honestly, I think this bike is so good that we actually forgot who this bike was intended for. And let me explain. All right, while we watch this bike up, I just wanna have a conversation about this bike. I think a lot of us have this misinterpretation about this bike because in my opinion, I think this bike punched so far above its weight that we all forgot who this bike was intended for initially. But because it punched so far above its weight, we put it into a different class. And I want to talk about that today because I think even me, we all have this bike totally wrong, which is a good and a bad thing. So today we finally upgrading the shock. Oh shoot, I forgot to turn the water on. Now a lot of us have really hyped this bike up and for good reason, which is a good and a bad thing. Now, let's be honest. If this bike didn't have what it has on it, nobody would be hyping this bike up, not even me. If this bike didn't have a rear through axle on it, a tapered head tube, a 1x9 drivetrain, a dropper post compatible frame, nobody would be talking about this. And that's the thing. We were all talking about this bike and being somewhat revolutionary because we've never had this type of upgradability at this price point. And that's where I think a lot of people get the confusion. This bike is intended for newer riders. Most newer riders won't even be riding this bike like we think a beginner mountain biker should ride this bike. Most people would be riding this bike around their local gravel trails in the neighborhood with their kids, things like that. And I think a lot of us mountain bikers, we got so excited because we'd never seen a rear through axle, dropper post compatible 1x9 drivetrain with Shimano Qs under $500. That was incredible for the price you get. And it even put a chainstay protector on here. Just the attention to detail at this price point with this bike still being intended for the everyday rider that's just riding around their neighborhood on their gravel paths and stuff like that, nothing gnarly. And I think that's where we get the mistake. We think this is a gnarly mountain bike that people want to go out and just shred with. That's the complete opposite of what this bike is for. But the thing is, they've made this bike to where you can only have to buy one bike. Let's take me for example. I had my Trek Marlin 6. That's what I started mountain biking on. I didn't know anything about mountain bikes. So I took it to a bike shop wanting to get my fork upgraded, and they looked at me like, we can't upgrade that fork. You have a straight steer head tube. And I didn't know what that was. I'm like, what does that mean? How come you can't just put a new fork on here? So stuff like that is stuff you don't have to deal with this bike. And I paid $700 for that bike. This is under $500 and you don't have to run into that issue. That's what people are failing to realize about this bike. This is not me trying to say this is the best budget bike you can get. This is that. No, this is a bike that you can get for under $500. And if you happen to get that bug where you want to upgrade this bike down the road, or you want to take this bike on gnarlier trails, you can do that. With the Trek Marlin for over $1,000, you can't do that. This is the point that I'm trying to make, and I don't understand how people don't understand that. The best cleaning products in the game, we got Muck Off right here. Shout out to Muck Off for supplying me with this. I mean, it's so great to work with companies like this, and I really appreciate them supporting the content. So we're gonna clean this bike, get it looking all good for its new shock that's about to get put on there. And I'm telling you, if this bike rides like I think it's gonna ride, with the new shock on it, I'm telling you, y'all are gonna be impressed with what this bike can do. I took this bike to Trestle Bike Park, showed you that it can survive Trestle Bike Park, and that was the most extreme conditions. I mean, if it survived that, you gotta take this bike serious. Now, some people might say, why wouldn't you just spend $1,600 on the Polygon if you're just gonna upgrade this bike anyway? And let me talk about that. First of all, $1,600 and $498 is a huge difference. That's 3-4 paychecks difference for some people. So let's get that out of the way first. Second of all, let's be real. And I got the Polygon T6. I love it. Most people who buy this bike are not upgrading this bike right away. We are looking at it from a mountain biker's perspective, our perspective. We are not looking at it from the people who would buy this bike's perspective. So first things first. Second thing, most people who buy the Polygon T6 are going to upgrade that too. So what kind of sense does it make to buy a bike at $1,600 that you probably gonna want to upgrade anyway versus a bike for $498 that you probably gonna want to upgrade anyway? So when you put those two things in perspective, the only difference is the frame. Now this does have 120 millimeters of travel versus 140 millimeters of travel. So you are locked in unless you want to. I think you can go up to 130 on this. You could put a 140 if you wanted to, but it'll throw off the geometry. I think 130 would be more of a practical way to go about this bike if you wanted to get more travel up front. So just let me know, what kind of sense does that make? You buying two budget bikes that people are probably going to want to upgrade once they get better. So would you rather spend $1,600 for a bike you might be upgrading, or $498 when you could put the same parts on both bikes? But like I said, the only difference is the frame and the travel. So depending on which bike you like as far as the travel and the reliability of the frame goes, those are the only two differences. This is a $498 bike with the same drivetrain as the Polygon T6, but the T6 has one extra gear. How much does that one extra gear mean to you? And how much does 20 millimeters of travel difference mean to you? Those are the questions you gotta ask yourself. And I support both bikes. Like I'm not biased. I work with both companies, but I'm gonna tell you the truth about both companies. I can't live with myself knowing that I'm trying to tell somebody to buy something that I don't believe in. Like, I put Hunt wheels on this bike, brand new wheels. You can't do that on something like a Marlin or anything pretty much under $1,000, because you got to spend more than $1,000 nowadays to even get a rear through axle, and you're lucky if you spend under $1,000. If y'all never used this drivetrain cleaner before from Muck Off, you got to get you some. This is the best for the drivetrain in my opinion. But I've heard a couple people say you could put somebody on an expensive bike and then put them on this bike and they could tell a huge difference. And I'm just like, a beginner mountain biker barely even knows how to switch the gears. And I'm talking beginner. I think, like I said, I think people are talking about beginner mountain biker who's been mountain biking for 3 to 6 months. I don't think people are talking about new mountain bikers. I was just out in Milwaukee and we did a clinic with some kids. Those are new mountain bikers. They didn't even know how to use dropper posts. They didn't know how to switch gears. That's who's buying this bike. I think that's what people are missing. So when people say that, I'm like, okay, like this camera, for example, let's take this camera. The camera that I'm using, the camera body is $1,300. The lens itself is $2,500. So that's about dang, my math is bad, $4,000 setup, $3,000, $4,000 setup. I got the DJI Pocket 3. Let me show you. I got the DJI Pocket 3. This camera, if you can see it, if it's focusing. Well, if you can't see it, I'll do some B-roll or something. This camera is super tiny. The sensor is not near as big as that camera. But I guarantee you, If I gave a new person to doing video that $3,000 to $4,000 setup that you're watching me on right now, and I have this $700 camera, I guarantee you I can make my videos look way better with this $700 camera than you can with the $4,000 camera, because I know what I'm doing. People who are new to mountain biking don't know what they're doing. So if you put them on a $5,000 bike, yeah, they might feel the difference. If you pick up that camera, you'll feel the difference over this, but do you know how to use it? Will you benefit from all that high quality that it has to offer? No, because you don't know how to use it. You don't know how to mountain bike. I know how cameras work, so I can make this look better than you would make that $4,000 setup look. Just like if I put somebody on a $5,000 mountain bike that doesn't know anything about mountain biking, I can have a better ride on this than they can on that mountain bike. So yeah, that's the best analogy I got right there, but I think it makes sense. But let's get, oh, I gotta wash that drivetrain cleaner off. So am I making sense at all? I feel like I am. I think some people are just so against these types of bikes that they can't even see this for what it actually is. They are so tied up into this being a Walmart bike or this or that they can't even really see what this bike actually has to offer and who and what it's intended for. Because let's be honest, if this was a Trek, if this was a Specialized, if this was put in the blank what bike brand you like, would people be mad about this bike? No. But because Walmart came out with this bike, that's why people are mad. And I just don't get it. Like, what's so hard about giving credit where it's due? I'm not afraid to give credit where it's due because I'm not biased to any company. I say whatever the hell I want to say. Nobody's paying me. Of course, I want to get views, but there's a way to get views and still be honest with you guys. And I'm not willing to compromise your trust just to get a click. I'd rather work a normal job, which I still do. I still work and do this at the same time. So I don't have to do shady stuff like that. I can be honest because my income is not solely reliant on views. Whenever I feel like a video is valuable to you, I make the video. Whenever I feel like a video should be made, I make the video. Simple as that. Now let's go see if we can put this shock on. I hope all that made sense. I hope we got the cat out of the bag about this Walmart bike. All right, we got the new rear shock put on, the D&M. This was a highly requested shock for this bike, and we'll see how it works. I've noticed it's kind of hard to set it up because it's got the negative and positive chambers. It was giving me a springy feeling at first, and then we tried a couple different settings and it feels more plush. Let me know how you set this up. I'm about 180, 185 pounds. And I'm not sure if you should set both the positive and the negative at the same pressure, because we tried that, because when we did the positive in the one that it recommended, then the negative in the one it recommended, it didn't feel right. But when we tried both at the same pressure, it felt way better. So I'm not sure if that's how you're supposed to do it or not, but let me know. How do you run this shock and to get it to feel the smoothest as possible? It's getting better. It still feels a little firm, but it's a lot better than when we did it the first time. I gotta just ride it and keep playing around with it and see if we can dial it in, but I love to hear what you gotta say down below to try to get this shock figured out, because I think this is a highly used budget suspension and a lot of people have it. So I'm sure there's a lot of information out there. Maybe I'll do my own research as well. But yep, here it is. Now we just gotta take it out on the trail and see how it feels. All right, I was in there picking up my Ozark trail and I saw this. I'm so tempted to buy this. I've never seen a Tektro drivetrain before, or derailleur. I'm not sure exactly what drivetrain it is, but this Marin Rift Zone 1, this thing looks so good. It's got 34 millimeter stanchions, X-Fusion suspension, 140 front, 140 front, 130 rear. It's got Tektro brakes on here. I'm a fan of these entry-level Tektro brakes. They work wonders. Definitely don't need to upgrade the brakes. Would you get this for $16.99? They said they might be able to do a deal, so we'll see. But for $16.99, do you think this bike is worth it? I like the color a lot. The purple is what's really drawing me in, plus the value you get. But I just think this is a great deal for $16.99. And it comes with the 1x11 versus the 1x10 you would normally get at this price point.